Good evening, welcome. I'm very honoured to have been asked to chair this evening. There are a few ways of being even more involved in the festival. If you tweet, the festival's hashtag is hashtag Amichai UK. It's also being live streamed on YouTube under the Promoting Poetry hashtag Amichai UK. I actually just want to stop for a second to make sure that I'm enunciating that correctly.
No, you're not. Amichai.
Amichai. There we are, you see. I knew I needed to check. Amichai. I hope that's better. Tonight, Favour and Favour have re-issued Yehuda Amichai's selected poems edited by Ted Hughes and Daniel Weisbort. I'd like to start by welcoming our guest of honour, Carol Hughes. This festival also thanks the Poetry Society, Smith's Doorstop, Exiled Writers Inc., the Royal National Institute for the Blind, and all its supporters. The festival celebrates the poetry of Yehuda Amichai, and we're honoured to have his widow Hana and their son David on the stage tonight, as well as the writers on this podium. I won't detail our writers' illustrious CVs, as they're on the Free Word Centre website and in your programmes. My job here this evening is to invite each of them to read their favourite Amichai poem in translation, followed in some cases by their own work. The festival will be going to Cambridge English faculty tomorrow evening and on Thursday to the Oxford Centre for Hebrew and Jewish Studies. Please see the inside of your programmes for further details. We'll leave the auditorium promptly at 8:45 and there'll be books to purchase and signing at the book tables. We promise to leave the building by 9 p.m. Please can you ensure that your mobile phones are switched off, and may I ask you not to clap until the end of the evening so as not to interrupt the atmosphere we hope the readings will create. I'd like you to introduce you to Hana. Hana, would you like to say a few words of welcome?
In the middle.
Sorry?
Okay, never mind.
No applause in the middle.
Yeah, did you say?
Yes, I did. Okay. Yes, no applause.
Good evening to everybody. And first of all, I would like to welcome all of you, dear audience, coming to the reading, to the festival. Especially, I would like to welcome my dear old friend for years, Carol Hughes, who is the guest of honor of this festival. I would like to thank and welcome all my dear friends, Carmel Hart, Heidi Becker, Louise Sweet and Richard Combe, and Valentina for coming to the festival. And I would like to thank Hazel for chairing the London opening of the second Yehuda Amichai Poetry Festival. And my son, David, and I are very happy to be here as Yehuda's work is heard alongside that of other poets. And to know that this is a festival during which he will be read by poets in Britain and Ireland. Going forward, the virtual festival, hashtag Amichai UK, will continue to be a forum for both Yehuda's work and poetry in general. I want to thank now to my friends, my dear friends, Erez and Rachel, who came from Israel to take part and participate in the festival. And I would like to thank all the dear poets here who came to take part in the festival, and especially to Yvonne Green, who really made the whole festival possible. I will read in Hebrew a poem which is called in English, The Place That We Are Right. My son David will read the translation, and I'll read the Hebrew so you have a sense of the original language. מן המקום שבו אנו צודקים, לא יצמחו לעולם פרחים באביב. המקום שבו אנו צודקים הוא רמוס וקשה כמו חצר, אבל ספקות ואהבות עושים את העולם לתחוח, כמו חפרפרת, כמו חריש, ולחישה תשמע במקום שבו היה הבית אשר נחרב. Thank you.
So this is the English translation. The place where we are right. From the place where we are right, flowers will never grow in the spring. The place where we are right is hard and trampled like a yard. But doubts and loves dig up the world like a mole, like a plow, and the whisper will be heard in the place where the ruined house once stood.
I'd like to ask Eve Grubin to read A Great Tranquility, Questions and Answers.
Good evening. A Great Tranquility, Questions and Answers. The people in the painfully bright auditorium spoke about religion in the life of contemporary man and about God's place in it. People spoke in excited voices as they do at airports. I walked away from them. I opened an iron door marked emergency and into a great tranquility, questions and answers. Is someone reading a translation? Okay. I'm reading two poems of my own, and I just want to say that it's an honor to be here with Hana Amichai and David Amichai and these wonderful poets. And Yehuda Amichai's work has meant so much to me for so many years. I'm reading two poems from my book, and when I chose them, I was thinking about his work and how I feel that he gave poets permission to write religious poems that were filled with doubt, and also to write poems of uncertainty filled with spiritual connection. He had that this incredible balance that he achieved with such strength and grace. That's me. Is that okay? So I chose these two poems that I attempted, I think, to embody those qualities. Okay, so this poem is called After. After a loss, you live with your gasp, your gaze, with your hungry mouth as you lift the fork. Something sane. Open the door. A guest sits down at the kitchen table. Washing evening dishes. Something simple, something sane. Water dreams over your wrist, your hand, a round transparent dish. Something simple. Night, rusty fire escape, even the rain, sane. Urgent street voices, screech of a hinge, simple. A clanking bang. Somebody is closing a gate or opening one. And this poem is called How the Rain. When it began to come down hard, we were thankful. We had lived the long, barren breaths without jagged edges. We had spoken the guttural letters, forgetting desire's torn robe. Belief had us blindfolded, dead grass, numb wholeness, complete as if done. We let the rain fill us, breaking into our soft shoulders, the wrinkles in our psalms, pulsing the new chords we had failed to hear in our own holy texts. We turned our hands over, the rush drenching our knuckles, filling the white spaces in our untouched scrolls. Ink spread and ran into our shoes, into our black coats and hair, slackening the blind's blue bind. Opening our mouths to broken points, bright pinpricks hit our tongues and lips. It kept coming, kept weaving through us until we stopped having faith so we could doubt again, believe. Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce you to David Amichai. He's Hana and Yehuda's son. He's going to read a poem without an end in English, and Hannah's going to read it in Hebrew for you.
Okay, so this is a different role. I'm not reading in English, but actually I would like to welcome you all and to say how happy we are to be here, and especially with our friend Yvonne, who's launching her new book, Gem and Jerusalem, and we all wish her the best of luck. And it's wonderful to see so many friends here and tonight, and hopefully we'll be making also some new friends. And I'd like to read the poem now that I chose. It's called Poem Without an End. I'm sorry. You can actually say Poet Without an End, but the poem is called Poem Without an End. Inside the brand new museum, there's an old synagogue. Inside the synagogue is me. Inside me, my heart. Inside my heart, a museum. Inside the museum, a synagogue. Inside it, me. Inside me, my heart. Inside my heart, a museum. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll read the Hebrew. שיר אינסופי. בתוך מוזיאון חדיש, בית כנסת ישן. בתוך בית הכנסת, אני. בתוכי, ליבי. בתוך ליבי, מוזיאון. בתוך המוזיאון, בית כנסת. בתוכו, אני. בתוכי ליבי, בתוך ליבי מוזיאון.
I'd like to introduce you to Eva Hoffman. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Eva. Eva's going to read As for the World and then some poetry of her own.
No.
Sorry?
It's okay, I'll explain.
Okay.
Yes, so I will indeed read a poem called As for the World in a translation by Yehuda, Amichai, and Ted Hughes. Can you hear me? As for the world, I am always like one of Socrates' disciples, walking by his side, hearing his opinions and histories. It remains for me to say yes. Yes, it is like that. You are right again. Indeed, your words are true. As for my life, I am always like Venice. I'm sorry, I cannot see very well. As for my life, I am always like Venice. Whatever is mere streets in others, within me is a dark, streaming glove. As for the city, as for the cry, as for the silence, I'm always a shofar, all year long, hoarding in one blast for the terrible days. As for action, I'm always like Cain, nomad in the face of the act which I will not do, or having done, will make it irredeemable. As for the palm of your hand, as for the signals of my heart, and the plans of my flesh, as for the writing on the wall, I'm always ignorant. I can neither read nor write. and my head is like the heads of those senseless weeds, knowing only the rustle and drift of the wind when a fate passes through me to some other place. So I don't have a poem to read. I'm not a poet. I am an interloper, but a very honored and a grateful one on this occasion. So I just want to say a few words about why I chose this poem out of such plenitude, such a rich body of work. And really, you know, I could have chosen so many others, but I chose it because to me it epitomizes something, a quality which I particularly admire in a lot of Amichai's poetry, and that is his ability to move very fluidly between different levels of experience and perception, often from very concrete and very sensual detail to a reflection, to a reflection which is not so much metaphysical or religious as existential, to a kind of reflection on the human condition. And so here Socrates is right, he says semi-ironically, and he is right in his opinions. But then he goes on to talk about himself, the poet, who is not made of opinions or ideas, who is full of turbulent emotion and full of ambivalence and ambiguity and turmoil, and ineradicable turmoil, inconclusive turmoil, who is in a way in a condition of unknowing himself. And I think, you know, this quality, what somebody called tolerance for ambiguity, makes his political poetry, for example, much more than message poetry. But it also gives a lot of his poems a wonderfully metaphoric, reflective quality, which is so rich and so suggestive and full. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Pascale Petit will now read In the Middle of This Century, but before that, Hana is going to read it in Hebrew. Yes, please, thank you.
באמצע המאה הזאת, פנינו זה אל זה, בחצי פנים ובמלוא עיניים, כציור מצרי קדום, ולזמן קצר. החלקתי על שערך בכיוון נגדי למסע, קראנו זה לזה כקריאת שמות ערים ששוהים בהן לאורך הדרך. יפה הוא העולם המשקים לאבן, יפה הוא העולם המרדים לחטא ולחסד, כשעטנז היותנו יחדיו, את ואני, יפה הוא העולם. האדמה שותה בני אדם ואבותיהם כיין, כדי לשכוח, לא תוכל. וכקווי הגובה של הרי יהודה, גם אנו לא נמצא מנוח. באמצע המאה הזאת פנינו זה אל זו. ראיתי את גופך, מטיל הצל, מחכה לי. רצועות האור של נסיעה ארוכה, נמתחו זה כבר באלכסון על חזי. נשאו רבדים, נשאו דברים, בשבח מותנייך בני המוות הזה. נשא דברים בשבח פניי החולפים. החלקתי על צווארך בכיוון הנסיעה. נגעתי במבשרי סופך. נגעתי בידך שמעולם לא ישנה. נגעתי בפיך שאולי אז ישיר. אבק המדבר כיסה את השולחן שלא אכלנו מעליו, אך כתבתי בו באצבעי את אותיות שמך.
And now I'd like to ask Pascale to read it in English, and then she'll be reading some of her own poetry. Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
In the middle of this century, we turned to each other with half faces and full eyes, like an ancient Egyptian picture, and for a short while. I stroked your hair in the opposite direction to your journey. We called to each other, like calling out the names of towns where nobody stops along the route. Lovely is the world rising early to evil. Lovely is the world falling asleep to sin and pity. In the mingling of ourselves, you and I, lovely is the world. The earth drinks men and their loves like wine. To forget, it can't. And like the contours of the Judean hills, we shall never find peace. In the middle of this century, we turned to each other. I saw your body throwing shade, waiting for me. The leather straps for a long journey already tightening across my chest. I spoke in praise of your mortal hips. You spoke in praise of my passing face. I stroked your hair in the direction of your journey. I touched your flesh, prophet of your end. I touched your hand, which has never slept. I touched your mouth, which may yet sing. Dust from the desert covered the table at which we did not eat. But with my finger, I wrote on it the letters of your name. There are so many reasons why I love that poem. It seems to be a love poem to life through adversity of war. And what it does with time is incredible. And I really agree with Ted Hughes when he said that Amichai has this oceanic feeling, a kind of big music of the tone and the images in his poems. That final image of the dust on the table, I think, is just oceanic. I'm going to read a poem that's set both in the Amazon rainforest and in a psychiatric ward. Mama Amazonica. Picture my mother as a baby, afloat on a water lily leaf, a name tag round her wrist, Victoria Amazonica. There are rapids ahead, the doctors call mania. For now, all is quiet. She's on a deep sleep cure. A sloth clings to the cecropia tree. A jaguar sniffs the bank. My mother on her green raft, its web of ribs, its underside of spines. I'll sing her a lullaby, tell her how her quilted crib has been known to support a carefully balanced adult. My newborn mama washed clean by the drugs, a caiman basking beside her. All around her, the other patients snore while her eyes open their mandolas. Now, my mother is turning into the flower. She's heating up. By nightfall, her bud opens its petals to release the heady scent of pineapple. How the jungle stories stir in the breeze from the window behind her. She hears the first roar of the howler monkey, then the harpy eagle's swoop, the crash through galleries of leaves, the sudden snatch then the silence in the troop. Haloperidol, phenobarbital. They've tried them all, those witch doctors, and still she leaps up in her green nightie and fumbles to make tea, slopping the cup over her bed like the queen of rain. See her change from nightclub singer to giant bloom in the glow of the nightlight, a mezzo-soprano under the red moon. She's drawing the night-flying scarabs into the crucible of her mind. Over and over they land and burrow into her lace. By dawn, she closes her petals. All the next day, the beetles stay inside her. The males mount the females, their claws hooked round forewings. There is pollen to feed on, no need to leave their pension. Night after night, my mother replays this, how the white lily of her youth let that scarab of a man scuttle into her floral chamber before she could cry no. She flushes a deep carmine, too dirty to get up, and her face releases them. The petals of her cheeks spring open. Black beetles crawl out, up the ward walls. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Pascale. I'd now like to ask Aviva Dautch to read Yehuda's poem, When 3 or 4 Are Gathered in a Room.
So I first of all want to start by showing you what I'm going to read the poem from. You can see I've got it wrapped in plastic because it's quite fragile, but also quite precious to me. So let me open it up. When we here in the diaspora, as Jewish poets, read Yehuda Amichai's work, I know for me I do so in Hebrew, but as much as I read Yehuda's work in Hebrew as his direct voice, in England you can't read him in English without reading him as mediated through Ted Hughes. So I wanted to explain why. In the 1990s, Yehuda Amichai gave an interview saying that Ted Hughes, this is a quote, sent my career into orbit. And he did say, you know the phrase, you're never a prophet in your own land? Well, we all know that Yehuda became very much a prophet in his land and in Israel. He'd published a little bit. He'd published a couple of volumes in Israel first. But what made his name internationally was this publication. And what I'm showing you is the first edition of Modern Poetry in Translation, which you will know well, I'm sure. And it's from 1965. It's the first volume that Ted Hughes and Danny Weissbort published to bring what they said were urgent voices into English. So I just want to show you that the entire front page is all Yehuda. So he was the most urgent of the urgent voices. So I'm going to read his poem first. This is actually Robert Friend's translation in 1965, but later Ted Hughes would rework it somewhat. So if you read the selected poems later, it's a slightly different version from this. But when 3 or 4 are gathered in a room, when 3 or 4 are gathered in a room, there's always one who's standing by a window, and he must see injustice among the thorns, fire devouring the hill, and see how men who went forth whole or returned to their homes at nightfall like small change. When 3 or 4 are gathered in a room, there's always one standing by a window, dark hair above his thoughts, behind him words, before him voices wandering without a knapsack, waterless prophecies, hearts without provisions, large stones returned unread, like letters with no address and no one to retrieve them. That's how I think of Amichai in person, but also as a political figure. He's always on the inside but looking out. For us in the diaspora, I often feel like I'm on the outside looking in towards Israel. In the introduction to that page that I showed you to Modern Poetry and Translation, Yehuda started with an introduction to himself and his work, and he compared himself to Josephus, who was the Roman historian. And he explains that Josephus first of all fought for the Jews and then went over to the Romans to write about them. And there is a discussion whether or not he was a traitor. And it's always funny to me thinking of Amichai as the voice of Israeli poetry, that he was drawing this parallel in 1965 with himself. Was he or wasn't he a traitor? So this is my poem after him. Traitor. There is always one who stands outside the window under a barren sky, while fallen seed pods cover the ground with silvery moons. She scoops a few into her hands like loose change and rubs their membrane between thumb and forefinger, translating their name. Honesty in one version, in another, Judas coins. Thank you.
Thank you. Erez, before I ask you to read, I just want to tell you that there'll be translations of what you're reading behind you, and those who are sight impaired have braille copies of those translations. In addition to which your bilingual book, You Who Cross My Path, is available in the lobby and on Kindle. This is Erez. Bitton.
Good evening. It is a great honor for me to participate this festival of Yehuda Amichai, a great poet and a dear friend. I wish to thank Yvonne Green, the mind behind the event, who found me worthy of participating in this festival. I would like to congratulate Yvonne on her new poetry book, Jam and Jerusalem, and wish her much success. I will open with Amichai poem, Ibn Gavirol. פעמים מוגלה, פעמים שירה. תמיד משהו נפרש, תמיד כאב. אבי היה עץ בחורשת אבות מכוסה תחב ירוק. אוי, על מנות הבשר, יתומי הדם, אני צריך לברוח. עיניים חדות כפותחנים פתחו סודות כבדים, אבל דרך הפצע בחזי מציץ אלוהים לתבל. אני הדלת בדירתו. Now I'm going to read some of my poems. The first poem is to say desert to Yehuda Amichai. After a joint reading in Arad, a town in the Negev near the Judea desert. As I was traveling with Yehuda Amichai to Jerusalem, I asked him to describe me the desert. Response, Amichai held my hand for a few moments, saying nothing. Then I said, now I understand. להגיד מדבר ליהודה עמיחי. ידך השותקת סרטטה לפניי, נאות מדבר, ירוק על ירוק, וכמו בכלים שלובים יד נוגעת ביד. העברת אליי דרך עיניך את גדולת הדיבר, את פלא הסנה הבוער. הכלב ואדוניו. כי בקצב אדוניו ילך הכלב הנאמן צעד אחר צעד בהרבעותיו. וכי אדוניו יצלע גם הכלב יגמגם בהליכותיו, ירד מדרגה, רגל מדרגה, רגל מדרגה, רגל. שלא ימעד אדוניו עד לתחתיותיו ועד למשטר הישר. יכבוש תאוותו למרחקים בלי גבול, יעצור בחובו ריח יערות עד, עלילות קדומים, ריח ציד מקם בפנים. אבל מה יעשה האיש העיוור שכלבו נחלה פתאום? יערסל אותו בידיו, יישא אותו על כפיו כאוחז בעולל, יגשש דרכו לפניו על מדרכות שבורות, ידדה, ינגף בעץ, יתקל באבן שפה, יביא אותו אל הרופא, אל המנוחה הנכונה, חסד תחת חסד, ליווי תחת ליווי. ישיב לו גמול על הליכתו בצעד המדוד בריח הנכון, על שהביא לפניו טעם יערות עד ותנופת המתפרצים אל הציד. למשורר האלג'ירי רבח בלעמרי, באלג'יר של המלחמות. שנינו באנו מאימהות עטופות המטפחות, כמו יונים הנכונות לעוף, להינתק מן האדמות הקשות. שם, באלג'יר של המלחמות, זו בצד זו, מדדות אל המערות להסתתר מן הצעקות הגדולות. אתה ואני ידענו לגשש זה אל זה, במשושים דקים להגיע איש רעהו, בידידות שאין בה ראייה, שהיא על טהרת הלב. מסדר זיהוי. הם יעמדו עליי כמו במסדר זיהוי, ואני אצטרך להרים את ראשי מן הקר כדי להכיר. הם מחפשו לפייס אותי בעיניים של ילדים, אז אתזכר בגיחוכי הכבדים. אותה שעה יבואו הדברים היפים שבפי, להידפק עליי דרך גופי. אז אתרפק על כאביי העייפים. אותה שעה קו האופק יבהיק מאף חיוך דקיק. אז אפנה את פניי אל הקיר ולא אכיר. הם יחשבו שאני עושה את עצמי כמו להכעיס. הם תמיד חשבו שאני עושה כמו להכעיס. אותה שעה, מה הם ימצאו בי? מראות. והנה באים לפניי כל המראות המתגעגעים לעיניים, אבל אני מתדפק עליהם בעיקשות של מי שנעשו בו קעקועים. הנה מדרכות שבורות סביב לתחנה המרכזית בלוד, שבורות מוכות, אבל מורגלות לעקבים יחפים, המזכירות עלילות ריצה בצחוקים ופחד קל של משחקי תופסת. ואדון בן רבי מהלך עליהם בשבת ומציג לעיני כל נעליים מבריקות. או אדון אהרון העגלון שהלך כאן מכות אגרוף, וגם זה מתו במכאובים קטנים ממושכים, בתוך בתים מתים לנפול, והזיכרון יוצא ונכנס בי, קרו ולא קרו, ואני נעשה מסגש לחיים, שהיו אז הומים ומטלטלים שהפכו לכל דממה דקה, למדרכות שאינן מכירות יותר בשפע הנגיעות והאהבות החפוזות. יותר ויותר. את הולכת ונעשית בי יותר ויותר. וגם אני נעשה בך. איפה אני מתחיל, איפה אני נשכח. אני מערה אלייך בתהפוכות חיי. את מערה אליי את יופייך, את כל חמדת פנייך. את מיישרת הדוריי, נאמנה לקצב הנכון, לצעד המדוד. שנינו כאבים שלובים. את ואני שזורים בשתי חידות, שמחה אחת, שני מכאובים. עוד אערה אלייך תגובות אין קץ, נקים צאצאים של יופי, של פשר גדול. אני ואת. אני לידך נהיר וברור, סדיר ומפוענח, חלק ולא מסוכס, אבל אני חסום, חוספס ועומד על בלימה, והרי את יודעת שבכל נגיעה קלה אני נכון למעידה הגדולה. להיות הורג. בבית חינוך עיוורים בירושלים היה אדון צבי המנהל מציג אותי בפני האורחים של המוסד ואומר, הנה הילד הזה קוראים לו ארז. כשיגדל נתקין לו רצועה אחת על כתף שמאל, רצועה אחת על כתף ימין, ונעשה ממנו הורג, ויהיה עושה שטיחים למלכים, לנסיכים. הורג לא נהייתי, אבל ברגעים של חסד, שיריי נעשים מרבדים קטנים, לכל אורח ולכל דכפין. לאמי לא חיו לה הילדים לאמי. הראשון, לא חי לה הראשון שקראו לו דוד על שם אביה. השני, לא חי לה השני, שקראו לו מאיר על שם רבי מאיר בעל הנס, ולא היה לו נס לחיות. והשלישי, חי לה השלישי, שקראו לו יאיש, שזה חיים, וזה הייתי אני, וחייתי לה. אבל איזה חיים חייתי לך, אמי? שיר שינה בעיר אורן. אליהו הנביא צעקה אמי. זה אליהו הנביא צעק אבי, שנכנס לו לחלום לשבת איתו ולשנן פרק מתהילים. ואני קם ורץ ויוצא מן הבית שהוא חדר, שהוא קיל נופל על קיר נופל. ואמי ואבי תופסים בבגדי הקטן שלא אעוף, שלא אברח, שלא אצא מתוך עצמי לגמרי, שם בעיר אורן שבאלג'יר, ואני בן 3 או 4, ואני לאן אברח? לאן אפול? לאן אצא מאליהו הנביא? אני יודע שגם הערב ילך אבי בראש תהלוכת המתים בבגדי חמודות, ואני יודע שגם הלילה אבי ילך לחברה קדישה לשבת אצל המתים, להחזיק בידיהם, בידי הגוססים במיני ברזל ונחושת, להבריח מזיקים עד לבוקר, עד לצאתם ביחד עם אליהו הנביא. היום אני איתך ילד, אוציא אותך מתוך שינה עמוקה, יד ביד, לא עוד בפחד של נפילות אל חלל נורא, אצא עמך מן החדר, שהוא קיר על קיר, איתך נעלה במעלה הרחוב הנהדר, המטפס לאט ובשקט. אלמד אותך להגיע אל המרכבות ההדורות, אלמד אותך להיות בתוך שינה שעל הבוקר, יחד איתך נגיע אל מערת אליהו הנביא כמו אל מערת קסמים, ואפילו עם הבעל והשטורת נחיה בשלום. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erez. Thank you. I'd now like to invite Yvonne to read Yehuda's on New Year's Day, but before that we're going to ask Hana to read it in Hebrew.
ערב ראש השנה. ערב ראש השנה, ליד הבית הנבנה, נשבע אדם לא לעשות בו עוול ורק לאהוב בו. חטאים שהיו ירוקים באביב, יבשו בקיץ, ועכשיו לא חשים. אז רחצתי את גופי, ועשיתי את ציפורניי, גמילות חסד של גמילות חסד של אמת שאדם גומל לעצמו בעודו חי. מה אדם? ביום מתיר למילים את אשר בלילה הפך לכדור כבד. מה אנו עושים האחד לשני? מה עושה אב לבנו ומה בן לאביו? ואין בינו ובין המוות, אלא כסוללת עורכי דין נרגשים, זה ליד זה, חומה של מילים. והמשתמש באנשים כבידיות או שלבי סולם, עוד מעט ימצא עצמו מחבק מקל עץ, ואוחז יד קרוטה מגוף, ומוחק דמעותיו בשבר חרס.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming out. I want to say that this is a very special night because there is a golden thread. Carol's here, Carol Hughes. As we've heard, she procured the reissue of this selected, which Daniel Weisbord and Ted Hughes edited. We have Daniel Weisbord's widow here, Valentina Polyukina, and Erez is himself a winner of the Amichai Prize and, in fact, the Israel Prize. So it's a very unusual evening, and I just want to thank everyone who's really put themselves out to be here. On New Year's Eve, this is Yehuda's poem, on Rosh Hashanah, next to a house being built, a man vows not to do any wrong in it, only to love in it. Sins that were green in spring have dried out in summer and now rustle and whisper. So I washed my body and trimmed my fingernails, the last favor which a man does for himself while he is still alive. What is man? During the day, he breaks up into little words what night has turned into a heavy lump. What are we doing to each other? What does a father do to his son? What a son to his father? And nothing stands between him and death but a thin defense like a battery of excited lawyers, a fence of words. And he who uses people as handles or as steps of a ladder will soon find himself embracing a piece of wood and holding a hand cut from its body and wiping his tears with a potsherd. Okay, from Rosh Hashanah, from New Year, I'm going to read you a poem of my own. And it's called The Appeal, but I want to assure any of you who attend synagogue there'll be no pledge card. Here on your soil, we aren't protected. Laws, neighbors we all embrace will fail us or succeed, protect or fail to. We are no different to anyone else, but we're a target which knows the form. Our grandparents, parents, their friends knew, had heard, seen, felt, and either told us with silence, myth, or toothless old mouths, or by not knowing things because their parents had been too dead to teach them, their grandparents because feelings were outlawed as a way to get through. We were trained to point duty without knowing its name, face the purpose it had for us. Oh, you'll say they're not loyal. We look away, move, but understand. Want to separate you from the bloodshed of defending us, ourselves, from the shame of not being defended. Memory, not history, flaws, not fault, humanity's deaths in the absence of duty. Law turned away from fictions espoused, murderousnesses appeased, while its functionaries are made marks. Cut, cut, cut like a swordsman, always after the banner carriers led the charge. Cut, cut, cut on the hashish pipes around which all the promises snaked which planned the latest round of deaths. Cut, cut, cut as everyone defies the latest news intended to strike fear in the enemies of its protagonists. Cut, cut, cut until the era gets tired. And meanwhile, yes, there are starving, drenched, parched, diseased places which want or take piecemeal aid, intervention which baffles, people who know the chop of full-scale war unstoppable, sewers of blood, degree, measure is everywhere, but who sues for peace before a war that's decade revived? Who understands leaders whose generations outlive Hitler, Stalin, Mao? Who knows what language to speak while the Tower of Babel's engineers fall daily? Their hod carriers beg not to climb the scaffold. What talks to all lost and extant beliefs that point to the supremacist watches with open eyes as you lie down, rise up, walk by the way, observe, so you can't say you didn't see. This poem's called Now the Rhetoric. Now the rhetoric begins to cloud us, prepared by music, rhythmed by fear, hypnotized, rat-a-tatted, rocked back and forth, strike the heart, again and again the exhortation. What does that country have for you now the caliphate's been declared? And with promises, inducement, veil and assertive threat, again men, dictators, sadists, power-crazed, blood-eyed history wakes up its limp excuse for a way forward while Darfur seeks a woman president to do things differently, find a new way. A small hand slices above the head while heads are severed. The rule of law, custom, ritual are bled of heat. God the judge ventriloquized by murderers who silence with guns, knives, hands, households, fear the spill of words, while you think, mine, love, invest life. The road forward backs, moaned about, reasoned, mocked, ignored. It won't be newspapers that bring you through. Radios which link your arms, these have failed you, made you commerce, trained your base faculties, left you as stunned as the rhetoric, as dumb. The fumbled, ungrammatic web offers to answer your search forays with voyeuristic curios to teach you to be more human, forget the birds of war, bleed the richer soil of tailored news which smells the past in rain, heat-baked, cracked, ooze crumbled, flesh is government, grains choices, nursed industry, toddled ventures, mother, daughter, granddaughter, shared corridors of power, sistered, brothered, I-watched old men, retired for a generation, rite of passage, trained to reason, kept pink of foot, ritualized, reminded, loved, fed, not allowed to hunt for food, made to plant, harvest, surrender their tools at the hearth. This and no less calls could be seen. Svetaeva, Marina Svetaeva was in exile in Paris in the late 20s and early 30s. And it was during that period where she said, all poets are Jews. So defend us, so the poem is called All Poets Are Jews. So defend us, silent English sisters, brothers. The taste of our names is growing bitter in our own mouths. We're sore with the sojourn. We'd thought to had settled. Computers have been the latest channel for the oldest of calumnies to become currency while no one noticed they'd been given an old script to act, to pixelate for caressed touchscreens, lapped laptops, smarter phones, hooked, lined, sinkered, throttled, piled in a rotted basket so many of us turn up, silent palms, make inane jokes, huddle in communities, love, self-hate, identify, differentiate, practice, atheize, agnosticize, intellectualize, new, old, scholastic, theistic ideas. Oh, that we like Israelis could just be rather than spend so much of our time, because you force us to, trying to understand ourselves, to explain, justify, not as an exercise like our sages, Rabbeim, Taneim, but as an apologia. Not in my name. What is my name? History is not this, that, other. Whatever it is, it's everyone's. We see what's demanded, done, shown, now in a new language with old declensions. Years ago, you heard its whisper, felt its breath on your skin, abstracted, because it was something you were supposed not to notice. Do poets notice? Where are your lines? Aren't you going to say anything at all? Why is that? Will screens, Kindle, blogs, films broadcasted record you? See, hear, divine the latest scree put on your steep path? Will we be alone again? 100 Years' War. This is the most important moment in the last 15 years and the next 85, and you exoticize repression. Enjoy opera about benign supremacists interspersed with elegant picnics course by course, reassured over champagne, insulated. This is the most important moment in the last 15 years and the next 85. And over again, you reason that and that and that would be enough to make me terrorize, as though you can explain, relieve, own the mayhem with reason, transform it by your act of imposed, assumed humanity. In Iran, the bloggers say you in the West failed to grasp the double glance of their leaders westward, eastward, for you, for them, and lift sanctions with a focus on ISIL, while Syria, Yemen, Gaza, Lebanon don't fit the puzzle. It's untidy, but paying for their boys to die doesn't seem to confuse you. There are no smiles, metaphors, strophes that whistle in the trees under the Glyndebourne which shades you. There's no silence either in my bowed head, or when I try to hold my back straight. My children live in impossible times and run amok as children do. Their fears are masked in where they'll work, who they'll love. Not a lot is said about before war came explosions, instead of the war games they play on consoles. It's impossible now they're old enough to sense that we'll grow away from the front if we're as lucky as we've been so far, although we remember our parents' wounds. Oh, tell me when to speak, write, when to stay silent, how to teach the when to pray, hold faith, take up arms. This is a poem from a short series in my new book, Jam in Jerusalem. And I'm very obliged to Frank Aubach, who gave me a beautiful picture to put on the cover. This is a short series called Four Corners, and this is the third in that series, and it's a series about containment. Thumb tip to flattened palm, little finger raised up in alarm. Square of terror blocks out the light, breaks hold, disables her from the fight. Her squared hand, the ache in her spine, the lock of her knees, the silence of the mime. And why always so passive, never clenched into a fist? Why ask herself questions before she acts, checks off her list? The dilemmas fork, conundrums arc, circle squared, the can we talk? What would be so wrong in answering back? Wrong or right, unfiltered this or that. When did she learn to be so measured when everyone else was so self-assured? Whoever told her it wasn't her turn until she was too old to learn? Thumb tip to flattened palm, little finger stretched to contain the alarm. Okay, so this is my final very short poem. It makes reference to the first Torah, which was Bible, which was published in book form in Portugal in 1482. And I'll just mention that Jews always like anniversaries, so and the sadder the better in a way. Tonight's the 5th of Kislev, and on the 5th of Kislev, 1497, that was the last day Jews were allowed to be in Portugal. So, yeah. I didn't mean the sadder the better. That was a very bad thing to say. I didn't mean that. It should be remembered. Shtum. Oh yeah, I wrote this after the Chagim, after the big run of festivals in the autumn, a couple of years ago. Shtum. Baked challahs, built sukkahs, forgiven fasts, eaten enemies, entertained families, visited friends, exhausted conversation, returned to poems, prayers, texts as beautiful as Lisbon Bibles. 15 good years to go. Forgotten anti-Jew marchers. Our friends comfort us, worried, angrier than we allow ourselves to be, more outspoken. But it's our enemies we watch, dumb, then conjecture. In here we talk, but not outside. Outside we keep shtum. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you all very much for coming, but mostly we'd like to thank the poets for sharing their wonderful poetry with us this evening. Thank you. Earlier, I misinformed you and said that Eva would read some poetry, and of course she isn't a poet, but read so beautifully of Yehuda's poetry for us. We'd like to thank her. Thank you.